Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest, I'm so glad she joined us too, because I was watching our new series, for those of you who don't know, is Hell's Kitchen. And I was going through the many, just like 18 or 19, and now they're doing 20 or they're doing 19 or something like that. But I started back at the beginning and watched 1 and 2 and took notes and stuff. And Virginia was definitely one of the notes, because she didn't come on with this executive, chef resume and like thinks she's second coming to chef world. She was just who she was, and it was pretty cool. And she had a couple of people like that on the show, and some of those people went exit stage left early on. But anyway, she participated in season 2 of Hell's Kitchen, premiered on June 12th, 2006, and concluded August 14th. By the way, Virginia and I were talking before the interview. She said something about 28 days. Do you guys ever, is it only me that didn't realize they were there for a month? I don't know why it just didn't compute that way, but I guess for, the production, you got to have that kind of, they're not doing it every single day. What are you, crazy? Mm-hmm. I can't even get a podcast done with the 2 jamokes I got on the screen next to me. So hard. And this is the first season, by the way, that they split the men and women. If you remember season 1, they just he was throwing jackets out to everybody. So this is the first season that they switched that up, and they've kept that tradition along the way. We're going to talk to Virginia about what she's doing today at the end, but I want to take her through the journey of being on the show. So, Virginia, welcome to What Would You Ask podcast. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
By the way, do you go by Hayes Dalbeck still, or is that changed? Or
no, it's always been Virginia.
Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cool.
I think there's been maybe some couple of publications where they messed up my name, but it's always been Virginia.
Got it. So take us through the journey. What inspired you to try out, audition for Hell's Kitchen?
What inspired me is I've always loved cooking. I went to culinary school. I got into cooking through boredom at home in high school and not having cable and just having a couple of shows. And I think one of them was Martha Stewart, and I would just find stuff in my kitchen and just put things together. And I just really enjoyed cooking. And so after culinary school, I moved to New York City, and one of my best friends saw an ad on Craigslist, said, "Hey, they're casting contestants for a show called Hell's Kitchen season 2 with Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay's famous chef." I had never heard of the show, quite honestly, and I thought they were talking about Hell's Kitchen, the area in New York. Yeah, I did.
Why not?
So I thought it was like something local, and then it was on Fox, and then so I went and waited for 6 hours to be talked to for about 10 minutes. It was on my day off. I had Mondays off, and went in to a live casting. I remember specifically, they're like, "This is no models and actors. If you're a model or an actor, leave now. This is serious." They looked at me because I was somewhat attractive. And I held out and then waited and it's basically just the relationship grew over about 3 months. At the same time, I was planning a life-changing event, which turned into another life-changing event. It was called a wedding and then followed by a divorce. No, but I almost had to cancel my wedding because they didn't have specific days that we were going to start casting. So I was able to pull off my wedding, pull off my honeymoon, and come back on a Sunday from my honeymoon and literally leave Monday for Hell's Kitchen.
Jeez. So you don't meet any of your castmates or anything like that until you get there, right?
What was that?
You don't meet any of the other chefs.
No.
Mm-mm. So do they do any?
Show up.
Yeah.
Can I keep you in the dark the entire time about everything? You don't know each challenge. You don't know what it is until Gordon Ramsay comes out and tells you each recipe, each dish, the next morning, the next day, everything. You're constantly left in the dark.
So had you seen any of season 1 before? Did you look at it before going out?
No, there was no way to look at it back then. I couldn't just go on Netflix or whatever and look it up. So no, I hadn't. I had read some of his books, his cookbooks. That was thinking that was preparing, but you can't really prepare for an event like this. Because it kind of seemed like they constantly wanted you to fail. They wanted to exhaust you. So, there's no reading his cookbooks didn't do anything. And I would like to state right now, since I'm talking about it, I didn't read the cookbook that I got at Sur La Table that day. I don't even think that it was out yet. I have no idea, but
I just think that you made that comment too, by the way, and we're jumping ahead, but
I know, sorry.
Virginia makes a comment about, reading his cookbook, and all of a sudden Heather and Keith are like, oh my God, she doesn't have a great palate. It's because she read the cookbook, which is just absolutely, ridiculous.
Yeah. And I actually liked how I remember reviewing some episodes, because I didn't really like to review it for at least until like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I did stick up for myself there, and I said, why do you think he would really throw a dish out to us that he knows I just bought a cookbook for? It doesn't make any sense, because it's not, they have a team of 25 people figuring things out. It's not just like, oh, let me make up a recipe, or let me do this recipe. It's very well structured. It's a reality show on Fox Television. It has to have some structure.
So is the first time you all meet Ramsey what we saw on TV? Is it that you walk in the place and...
Actually, now that I recall, some of us got picked up. Gosh, I don't know now. I can't remember if we drove. I think we drove over there in a black van all together and kind of had small talk, talking about Gordon Ramsay and what he's like and this, that, and the other. And then we got to the restaurant and waited more and then he came out. But it was kind of just awkward the whole time, the first day, because
you're gonna
awkward.
Do you know you're gonna do your first dish that right then?
No, in fact, they gave us, if I recall properly, I'm pretty sure they gave us champagne in that van to kind of loosen us up and make us feel a little bit more at ease. And then that was well worn off by the time we started cooking. And when we did, when they were casting us, they said, give us a 15-minute recipe, a 30-minute recipe, and a 60-minute recipe. And then all of a sudden on the first day, on the first episode, the 30-minute one was our signature dish.
Oh, jeez.
It's like, okay, that's not my signature dish, but okay. So, and mine was only 30 minutes because I had to marinate a vegetable. And so it did not take 30 minutes. It was just that. So I don't know. It was a disaster.
Take us through what the week was like. We got a lot of questions from our viewers and listeners about, how much are they actually in the dorm? Are they working? What are they doing in their downtime? What's the schedule like? If you remember, just tell us a little bit about that.
The schedule was very long and grueling. That's why when we had those 2 blackout days I told you about, we literally slept all the time. But there was nights where we were up until 11, 12, 1, 2, and then waking up at 6:30 a.m. The days were long. It was kind of like hurry up and wait though sometimes. Every other day would be service. So Monday would be service. So you wake up and you're busting to get prep done. And sometimes they'll take you away from your prep station while you're ahead. And you have to go to, I'm forgetting the word. You have to go to confessional. And they like hold you in there. So you kind of fall behind. And then you're rushing again, causing drama and heat. And then like the first day, the first day we did our signature dish, but the second day was service, and it was a blind prep. They just gave us a bunch of recipes and said, make these sauces, make this, prep this meat, cut this fish. You didn't know what went with what at all. So that was a little frustrating. And then they threw me on meat station, which honestly, I didn't really have that much experience. When I got out of culinary school, I rolled sushi in Los Angeles and then transferred where I was working to New York, and then couldn't pay my bills from rolling sushi, and got back into cooking. But I only had about 6 months in a restaurant that I really learned the most I'd ever learned thus far in my career at that point in time. So I was very green, and he threw me in, and of course it's going to be a nightmare with all the blind prepping, and you don't see the menu, and he just comes in screaming, and he calls shrimp shank jocks, or is that scallops? I can't remember now. It was just, I blocked a bunch of it out because it's, it is pretty traumatic. So then the next day would be a competition day where it was more creative and fun.
Yeah.
and a little bit more in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's where I would win mostly, I think, every challenge except for 1 or 2, if I'm not mistaken. And so that was my time to shine. That was where I felt more comfortable being creative and being able to create and work with the team in a positive way. Not because at the beginning you have, 6 people on each team, right? Or I think 6, whatever. You have everybody wants to be the leader. Everybody wants to try to shine. Everybody wants to try to show the chef that they have what it takes.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, you need to be a team player. You need to be equal. So you're juggling this like leadership, I'm the best role with, hey, I'm your equal. And I don't know. It was just, there was a huge alpha leader battle going on in there.
Did anyone intimidate you? I mean, obviously you're a chef and you know what you're doing. Do you know in the first day, week, whatever, that, okay, Heather's pretty good, Keith's pretty good, do you have that? Are you watching that way? Are you checking everybody out, or are you just doing your thing?
Yeah, I'm checking everybody out. The first people that were very intimidating was obviously chef and the 2 sous chefs, because they were the ones yelling in your face all the time while you're just spinning in circles. Anybody who won basically that day would be like, I'd have an eye on them, but then the next day they totally fail at something. Because I realized looking back, I feel like they picked people that are very, that it's their whole heart and soul to want to be in the culinary industry and own a restaurant one day, but none of us really had that much experience, except really for Keith and Heather in their career path. Like one of them was a stay-at-home mom. One of them, like one of them was an executive chef of a prison or something. Like, I don't know what the hell that means. I mean, we've seen shows where the food is horrible in prison. So everybody had their own, experience. And so, but ultimately the biggest intimidation was just the sous chefs and Gordon Ramsay just screaming in your face all the time, because you can't, when you have all those stressful chemicals going through your brain, it's very hard to stay collected. So that was a really big challenge.
Is he there a lot? I mean, think about your day. Is he there a lot, or is he just?
He's not there. Like when it was service days, he would come in like an hour before service and just command the room. I mean, you see the energy he has. He's tall. He's well spoken. He has a lot of energy. But on challenging days, he was usually there. Obviously, if he was having to judge our food or teach us how to cut down a strip steak, he was there normally for the reward of the challenge, and would always leave somehow early. He would always leave a dinner separately, but we'd all drive there together. It was just kind of all over the place.
Yeah. What was your favorite challenge? Did you have one or no? Do you remember?
I mean, I'm going to say my favorite challenge is just that one that pops out in my mind first. And I think it was
taste test.
Well, it was 2 things. It was either the taste test or creating. We had to create
recreation. Recreation.
I don't know. I don't know what the goal was. Well, I'm going to just say, it's a toss up between recreating his dish and then making a really beautiful Santa Barbara prawn salad that he also really enjoyed. And I think I won from that as well.
Yeah.
But those 2 would probably be what I liked the most, just because I was able to be creative and I was able to use my palate, which I really like now after the show. I never knew I had a good palate till Gordon Ramsay told me.
Well, you can't get a better compliment, I don't think. I mean, that's pretty darn good. And you deserved it too, because you did it in the taste test, right? You did a good job there. Then when you recreated that dish, you're the only one that got the sweetness. And I don't know anything about cooking other than eating the stuff, but whatever the sweetness in the sauce was, I think that's what you picked out.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was actually grapefruit. Grapefruit was in the sauce.
That's right.
And then I used pearl pasta instead of couscous that everybody went for. And I used the white beans for the puree versus mashed potatoes, which everybody thought. But I got lucky with the fish. I don't recall knowing what fish that was. I just kind of recall going in there and just grabbing the fish and not knowing there was a variety of fish in there to choose from. I got lucky with the fish part. But the sauce I nailed, the bean puree, and then knowing the difference between pearl pasta and couscous.
Got it. So let's talk about Ramsey a little bit. You guys had there was quite a, scuttlebutt on the, about you're flirtatious with him and blah, blah, blah. And Heather and Keith had their comments about it. And obviously, it was nothing more than flirtatious. Tell us a little bit about what that was all about live there. We saw what we saw on TV, but tell us what was going on there.
I would say that's just me just being a little insecure and just trying to break the ice by flirting. I kind of always lean towards that when I'm kind of in a shy mood, or that doesn't make any sense, not shy. But like in an uncomfortable situation, I either crack a joke or flirt. Since I've grown up a little bit, I do more joke cracking than flirting. But I mean, it was innocent, and it was just immaturity on my part. And it was just fun. It was, I never thought I never thought people would pull that and just hang on that and think that like there was actually ever anything or a chance, or and we're never even alone in the same room. Yeah. I mean, it was just absurd.
Yeah. I just think when Keith I don't know if he ever interviewed after he got eliminated, but the comment he made to Ramsey, was that happened just the way it happened too? He just walked up there and said that? I mean, that's just so out of line. It's not. That
happened
funny.
Right the way it happened, dude. And it was so uncomfortable too, because Keith kept pausing for like uncomfortable periods of time. And Gordon Ramsay, you could tell, was like looking around like, do I need security right now? Because it was very uncomfortable. And, Keith did say that. And maybe that was an insecurity on his part. I mean, if that's the only thing you could say against me, then that
whatever.
It is what it is.
Yeah. And you moved on just like Ramsey moved on. He's like, you just proved to me, Ramsey says to Keith, you just proved I made the right decision. Now get out.
Yeah, which Gordon Ramsay's full of those really good like one-liners.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the intimidation. I mean, obviously it's tough in there. I mean, I'm watching a bunch of these shows, and this guy he doesn't care who you are. He is ripping people season after season, women that are, petite and, guys that are giant. I mean, he just rips everybody.
Yeah.
And people wonder why, guys burn themselves or drop something. And I'm thinking to myself, who wouldn't with this guy? What the result is if you're looking at a dish and you have to bring that up to the pass and that guy's waiting for you. It's got to be, horrifying. Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
I mean, I think it would be a combination of him. It's a combination of him being intimidating, being tall in your face, yelling at you, screaming at you. But it's also being in a really new environment. If you're any kind of a strong line cook, it takes you at least 3 weeks to get it. And we're supposed to get it on our first day. So put those combinations of pressure on people, and you're dropping stuff. You're unfocused. I mean, I strongly believe the only time you cut or burn yourself is when you're not focused.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one thing about Gordon Ramsay, yes, he's intimidating, but if somebody's yelling at you all the time on service pretty much every night, you kind of get used to it. And he's doing it to everyone. So you're like, oh, okay, it's not just me. It's doing it to everyone. But then there was just some nights that he would just like have it after you. And like, I remember I made tortellini wrong once. I didn't blanch them before I took them to the line. So when I was ready, when I had orders of them, they were sticking to this metal that was inside of the pot, this like chinois kind of strainer type thing. And they were all breaking, they were all breaking, but I was still serving them the best way I could, even if they were broken. And he just started yelling at me, screaming at me, and you can't even stick up for yourself. You can't even say, chef, these weren't prepped right. They're all breaking. Should we 86 the dish? I mean, you don't really know. You can't even speak up because whatever you say, he's going to fight you back and win, essentially, because he's the leader. He's the boss. He's earned his position. He also wants to see who falls, who's going to rise, who's going to fall, who's going to buckle, who can handle the heat in the kitchen. Seriously, that's just his style. And it's been that way since before he even had a show or was in the United States. He's been in trouble for it.
Yep.
That's a real like kind of European way. It's obviously you can't be that way anymore, especially in America. I mean, I'm surprised he can still have boy and girl teams segregated.
No, you're right. You're right.
But yeah, I mean, he did have a really soft and charming side to him too. Like when we went some of the challenges, when we're sitting around the dinner table, it was not uncomfortable at all, Nick. He was asking questions. He was joking. He was charming. He was nice. You're like, yes, he's never going to yell at me again. He just laughed at my joke. And then, nope, sure enough. I mean,
he rips you.
No, you want to see what I looked up into Sarah one night. He goes, I know you're a lady, but I'll stick it in your ass sideways. And we were just like, dang.
Yes, chef. Oh my God. Did he go out on that boat, the yacht you guys all went on? Was that part of his thing or no? Did he not go on that one?
He went on that.
Oh, he did?
Oh yeah, that was a challenge that we won, and that was pretty fun. Yeah. By the time the bathing suits, by the time we're laying out, he was off. Remember how I told you earlier that he would like always leave early?
Yeah.
Basically, he'd come to get the meal and the footage that they wanted him in, and then he's like, I gotta go. I'm not gonna stick around for this. Which is smart because he's in the public eye, so he doesn't need a bunch of weird rumors flying around about him.
Right. So tell us a little bit about, so you're working long hours. You're going to that. Is that the dorm? Is the dorm, right? That's where you stayed. There's no joke about it. And that's right above or
it's beside.
Besides the,
like and there's kitchen with just two kitchens, and you walk around a hallway, and there's just a long hallway of a couple rooms that you go to confessional in, and then dorm rooms.
You got nominated like every week. It was like, guess who's coming up again? And then unless you won something, then you obviously, but even Ramsey would be like, for Virginia, like he made faces sometimes like, oh, that's where you went with that again. I mean, it's like, how much of that was some type of strategic move as opposed to just who was the worst chef that night? Because you weren't that bad.
I mean, I'm going to go back to my lack of kitchen experience. And, before I went on the show, I was 6 months into a job from our Batali at Lupa in New York City.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I did garde manger there. I mean, you're not sauteing, you're not cooking, you're not grilling, you're not doing any of that.
What is garde manger?
Garde manger is like basically anything that's not cooked. So, and normally appetizers, salads, meat boards. For dessert, there was like panna cottas and biscottis, things that were kind of like ready to be served right away.
By the way, just as a side note, did you get to know Batali at all?
No, I met him like once briefly, but oh no. Well, I've worked at 3 of his restaurants. The second one was Casamono, and he came in one day and ate lunch with somebody, and I was cooking. And it was funny because Casamono's across from my high school, and some kids got in a fight in the street, and he like went out and broke up the fight. His calf muscles are huge, and he like totally broke up the fight. And I was like, okay, this is the most amazing day ever. I met Mara Batali, and I got to watch him break up a fight. This was awesome. And that was as far as it went. But nope. It would have. I feel bad for the guy too. We don't have to tap into that, but. No. I don't even know what that guy's up to right now.
I don't either. That's what I was wondering if you knew.
Publicist is probably like, you need to go hide under a rock for about 3 years.
I think that's the plan. Yeah, that's the PR person saying one more year under the rock. So tell us a little bit more about that. So you're coming down to the end now, and you're still around. And quite frankly, Heather and Keith have seen you enough, but you're there. I mean. And then when Keith gets eliminated, he says the disgusting stuff, and probably right. He probably was ticked off. It was an easy thing to say. He's kind of a punk anyway. I don't mean that, I just mean the punk attitude. I don't know him personally, so I'm not judging what he was like. But he had that cool, punk's not the right word.
Like that easy attitude.
I grew up with every guy like that in this area. So, I mean, I meant, you got to know what I'm saying when I say
that. Yeah, I totally get that.
I know you do, but
I don't, yeah.
Listeners don't know. He just that tough guy kind of, deal.
Yeah.
Now it's you and Heather. Do you look at her as, and I don't mean this, do you look at her as a better chef than you because of her experience and because of all that? Is this going to be an uphill battle for you head to head? How did you look at that going into the finals? You were doing really well. I mean, you were winning, you were going head to head. It wasn't like she was winning things and you were You're not.
Yeah, and like once Keith was gone, the dynamic completely changed, and all of a sudden we were like comfortable around. Like she wasn't like it wasn't 2-against-1 anymore, and so she mellowed out a little bit. But I'm trying to think back. You know, I was just so excited. I don't remember. I just wanted to get through dinner service. And I mean, we were cooking a brand new menu, and you have one night and like 35 guests or 40 guests to prepare and cook for. And I mean, you just hunkered down and did it. And by that time I was so, that was my 4th week into being like, just boom, 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 go, 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 left turn, right turn, pop up, pop down, do less, do more. So by that time I was just already gung ho. I was already like, let's see who wins this thing.
Did you smoke on the show? Just came to me.
I think I did. I think I smoked a couple cigarettes.
I don't know. I didn't see you do. I'm just wondering why every single person on that show smokes.
They all smoked. I think maybe a couple times I did just from boredom and like, cause you don't have any TVs, you don't have any cell phones, you don't have any cookbooks. They take that all away from you.
Yeah. But it seems like you could tell by how some people hold, like I'm talking about not your series. I'm talking about every series that I've watched. There's people that are just, they don't smoke. You could tell how they hold the cigarette. They're just, and they're like, and they're just, but it's just the thing to do, right? There's nothing else to do. I just came to my head. Like, I didn't remember seeing you smoke at all, but that was kind of
I think I took a couple
cancer stick
there, just from pure boredom.
So any behind the scenes, anything that surprised you about it being there? Anything that you see when you saw the film that was not represented appropriately? Any, along that lines of what we see on TV, or is it all pretty accurate?
I mean, gosh, I'm having to dig in these files. I mean, for the most part, there would be some edits of certain looks or leaving out important sentences after another person says something. One thing that I did notice that was in the confessions, I didn't realize how I was kind of being prompted. Like they're kind of putting like, how does it feel to be the underdog, Virginia?
Right.
Even though I didn't really feel that way.
Right.
Or what's the deal? Like the rival, like, they're kind of like instigators and kind of put things into my head that I didn't realize at the time.
Yep.
But nothing that sticks out right now, Nick, but I'll probably think about 20 things later.
We're doing a Shark Tank series and a Survivor series. Excuse me. At the same time, we're doing this series. And the same thing happens with the producers there. On Shark Tank, they'll say, focus on Mark Cuban for this. And they know that Mark Cuban is not into, holistic stuff, and he's going to hammer them. And so the person will be talking right to Mark, and Mark will say, that's a complete fraud. I'm out. I don't want anything to do with it. And the guy's like, what? Why did you tell me? So they, we hear this through the interviews. Same thing with Survivor. It's just like you said, I can't believe that, Virginia said that about you today after the challenge. And then they'll go, yeah. What did she say? Yeah. And then, next thing you and her have, hate each other.
Or
it's very interesting.
Pull out like the night that Sarah and I got into an argument. I'm just going to use it as an example. I don't know if this is exactly the way it went, but like, there would be like Heather, Keith, Sarah, and myself around the dinner table, and then they'd pull Heather and Keith away to go to confessions and leave me and Sarah there, like one-on-one awkward, to kind of like set us up to get into another argument.
Right.
So there was a little bit of that going on.
Yeah. So tell us about when you went to open the door and it didn't open.
Well, I remember dinner service, I think, was done around 12 in the morning, and that happened around 3 a.m. So I think Heather and I had fallen asleep waiting on the couch to be called in.
It ended at 12 o'clock at night, the dinner, and then 3 hours later that happened?
And I just remember my contacts being so dry. And I was like, I hope they don't flip out, because they felt so dry. Because of a 12-hour day, and then in the kitchen, and then falling asleep. But, it was what it was. I was glad it was over, quite honestly, at that point. I was just glad it was over and I could get back to my life and move forward and get some rest and live in a normal environment again. It's sad. But I went and visited Heather after she won in Las Vegas. And I mean, she didn't win her own $1 million restaurant. She won an executive chef position in a hotel. I think the restaurant might have already existed, or maybe she helped open it.
Yeah.
She still had executives and bigwigs to answer to. And she only did that for 1 or 2 years. She had a contract. So I was a little disappointed the whole time thinking you're going to win a $1 million restaurant. And it's just seemed maybe a little bit of smoke and mirrors. Yeah. Now I feel like it's gotten better. I mean, you watched more. I think you watched probably more seasons than I have. So I don't know. Has the prize gotten better or more realistic?
It's still said to be $250,000. They don't push the running your own restaurant anymore. They say that
you just get money.
It's $250,000 salary, and you're going to go there as an executive chef. But then they put in the fine print that you may be in charge of a certain thing and not necessarily the high person going. There's other people that haven't even taken the job. They just took a cash payout.
That's a lot of money for an executive chef to get paid.
Yeah.
Unless you're running 5 to 8 units.
And I think it was the Red Rock Resort in Las Vegas was the casino that she was.
And that's where we filmed we filmed an episode there when Heather and I were on the roof.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You guys went there. Didn't you have a giant suite too, or something?
Giant suite. It was gorgeous.
Yeah,
it was insane. Cool. I'll never forget that. It was like a 2-bedroom suite, but producers or 2 of the producer assistants or casting producers slept in the other room and on the couch. So I couldn't leave my room even if I wanted to, but I didn't. I mean, sleeping was being alone and with the microphone off and having time to yourself.
Oh.
And not having a public like a restroom with multiple stalls in it to share. I mean, was blissful. So I took advantage of that. So
tell everybody what you're up to today.
Today, let me see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 5. 5 restaurants with 3 business partners. Growing, still growing. Yeah. COVID didn't slow us down at all. In fact, it gave us some really inexpensive money to turn into some business. I have a 6-year-old daughter. She and her father, or me and her father, are still together. We're not married, but we're still together. 8 years.
Really? That's cool. I mean, didn't you go back into business or he's partner or was or something like that?
Yeah. My ex-husband is my business partner now. But he's remarried and has 3 kids. I have a new life with a child.
And you're not married to the guy. You're just with him for 8 years.
I'm not married to Hunter, my current man. We've been together for 8 years.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm still business partners with my ex-husband, but I mean, it's been so far past that, it's almost uncomfortable to even say ex-husband anymore because we've done so much growing since then and in so many different positive ways. And he has 10 other restaurants. So we don't even see each other. But,
so tell us about the COVID thing. How have you touched on that not affecting you when a lot of people it has affected, especially in the restaurant business? How has it not been impactful?
Well, it's affected us. It's affected us, but I think it's been more positive effects than negative effects.
Got it.
I have really great business partners that were on it right away, trying to get all the loans that were available and did. We took care of our employees. If they chose not to go do unemployment and come back to work for us, we took care of them with a second kind of program that the government had offered. We were able to get out of a lease of a restaurant that wasn't doing very well. We were already planning to close our Fort Worth location June 1st, but we just closed it completely after we were forced to close during COVID. We weren't forced to close. I mean, there was only like a 5-day span where nobody knew what was going on, and then you were able to do to-goes and liquor to go and a bunch of different things. But we just never reopened, and we were able to get out of our lease a lot cleaner. So that was another positive thing. All during quarantine, our Midland location was still under construction. We opened that a month ago, and it's doing fantastic. So we lost some employees, but all the loyal ones came back, and it's just like we kind of picked up right where we left off. And I that's it. That's how it positively affected us.
How is COVID? Is it calming in Texas? I know it did like a late ramp. Is it starting to, you
I wish
guys
I
be
could
able to live
throw
your
out
life?
some hard numbers for you right now and sound really smart with
No,
what
I don't know the
numbers
numbers.
are, but
Yeah.
last thing a couple days ago, it was like 14,000 total passed, 3,000 right now in the hospital. But
Ugh.
I try to just do the day by day thing, try not to watch too much news, and
Why
just
bother?
try to do just the small goals of wearing your mask, washing your hands, trying not to get too overwhelmed with everything.
How is it concerning to have a child in this environment? Is that just horrifying to you, or is it because she's 6 years old? He or she? I'm sorry, I didn't remember what you
The
said.
girl, her name's
Yeah.
Lively Clover.
Lively?
Yeah, Lively.
That's a pretty
Clover.
name.
Thank you. I think yes and no. I mean, I already terrified myself for the first 6 years of like what could happen and what's like worst case scenario things that I actually like went to counseling for, because I'm like tug of warring in my head of things that don't even exist. So to me, yes, I mean, I fear her getting sick from anything or having any kind of sickness or pain in this world. But she is going to school right now, which is nice. And I don't have to do the Zoom classes at home or homeschooling, which that really scared me.
Yeah.
Because during quarantine, we'd stuck to a little routine and I tried to teach her phonics and stuff. And I think I traumatized her. It's funny. I do love to teach and I do love to lead. But when it comes to like my child, it's just so personal that I don't know. I'm glad that we have people that can do that for us that are better at it than I am.
So in closing, wrap up for me your experience when you look back on Hell's Kitchen. Do you look back on it? You have to look back on it fondly, right? You did great. You got to the finals.
People ask me this all the time.
Yeah.
And they always ask me if it was fake, if the show was fake, if Gordon Ramsay's really that mean. And I always say it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. One day would be the worst day for me. Literally every other day when I was winning challenges, it was like the best of time and then the worst of time during dinner service. Would I do it again? Hard question, just because I'm not really wanting to compete in anything anymore. I'd rather host my own show or have my own show. But I think about if I would do it again, yes, probably, because I like to throw myself into uncomfortable situations for personal growth.
Why weren't you asked? Were you asked? Like they did All-Stars, they did Vets versus Rookies. You should be one of those people.
I know. I feel like I kind of fell under the radar because I moved around so much, and I don't know. I was asked to go to either season 9 or 11. I did go back for one thing, and we barely got any airtime. Looking back now, I can't even find the episode. I think it was somewhere in between 9 and 11, and then episode 9 or 11. And that was fun. But I recently was on I know we're here to talk about Hell's Kitchen, but I did get to cook for Tyler Florence about a year ago. He tried to do a show called Bite Club.
Bite Club, that's right, yeah.
And he had a season 1 and I was season 2, and I did the Dallas chef episode, and I don't know, just after that I just felt like maybe competing's not for me anymore, and maybe it's an ego thing. It's just it's just very stressful so I don't know. But speaking of Bite Club, it was supposed to go on Food TV Network, which was a dream of mine, and it ended up streaming right before it went on Food TV Network. So I basically think it didn't really do very well, and I didn't win on anything. I didn't win on that or even get second place. So that's kind of heartbreaking. I mean, I'm mature and confident enough to not let it really get to me, but it does it's hard to go on national television twice and both not win anything. But I mean, you could also say I won a lot. I mean,
how could
that's my biggest complaint, then I'm doing well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you got to look at Hell's Kitchen as a win. I mean, I get it. I'm not for.
And honestly, I haven't never gotten more attention than during quarantine than even when it was airing, because they'll follow me on Instagram.
Yeah.
They slide into my DMs. Well, they're probably Facebooking me too, but I don't really go on my Facebook Messenger. But people are always like, I'm watching season 2, loved it, and you did a great job. So it's kind of interesting. I never thought this, 15 years? later I'd be getting more attention. I mean, look at you. You wanted my attention.
I did. And so did a bunch of our members. Listen, you were a fan favorite. You were authentic. People like people that are authentic. You took who you were and you said, here I am. You deal with it, right? Like it, don't like it, whatever. You didn't have any kind of, agenda. You just went in and did your thing, and you got hammered for it sometimes by the boss and sometimes by the other chefs. And then other times you thrived and you triumphed. I mean, you were a great story. I think that's why people align themselves to you. Plus, you, like I said, you were authentic, and people love people that are authentic.
Thank you.
There's no BS behind you. So listen, I appreciate you being here. I'm glad you were on the show. I'm probably going to call you back up to help. We're going to do some co-hosting things with some other members, like we're from other seasons. I did this with Survivor. We did it with Big Break, the golf show we did early on. So I might call you back.
Love golfing.
Interact. Do you really?
Yeah.
I did.
I don't know if you want to play with me, but I love golfing.
Well, I saw my cracks research staff showed me a video of some of you were on a golf course where you're all singing or there was some kind of song and
that was a fun. My one of my best friends, David, had been asking me for 10 years to do this fundraiser. Finally, it was the last year, and it was in Palm Springs, California, called the Prindy. And it was just a gorgeous day in January. It was 75. I mean, Beautiful. It was talk about great vibes. It was fun.
Cool. Virginia, thanks for your time today.
I don't think we made it to the 18th hole, but it was fun nonetheless.
Got it. Thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Let me know if you need anything else.
I'll do it.
I appreciate it.
With more What Would You Ask podcast in a second.